Hi everyone, welcome back to the 300 Bird Challenge. I'm Stu.
I'm Sara.
We're trying to see 300 birds this year. We're continuing our Florida trip and we're excited about where we are today. We'll tell you when we come back after this. Hi everyone, we are at Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge and we are beginning the day with a wildlife safari drive, driving down a little track here, seeing what we can see on either side of the car. Let's take a look. Access to Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge's drive is $10 per vehicle, or $1 on foot, but I wouldn't recommend it, it's pretty long. And the refuge is located to the east of Orlando on an island near Titusville. It's overlooked by NASA's Cape Canaveral space station. There's some driving parts where we're going to begin, and several walking trails. After getting our ticket, we began the Black Point Wildlife Drive. We got an early start because Merritt is so large and the marshes looked pretty just after dawn. One of the first things we saw wasn't actually a bird, it was a wild boar, or a wild hog as they call them in Florida. They're invasive and can cause damage to soils and plant species, but these animals have been around in Florida for hundreds of years now. Things were a little quiet. A common gallinule swam the marsh, but we wondered if we might have been here a little too early. The sun was still rising behind us, although eventually a tricoloured heron presented itself to us. And some early rising double-crested cormorants. We continued slowly along the drive, taking our time, and another non-avian encounter. This marsh rabbit popped out. These rabbits can be found throughout Florida, as well as up the eastern coast, about as far as Virginia. They have smaller ears than the eastern cottontails that we're used to seeing. They also have shorter legs and a less fluffy tail. I think we just found the number one spot. There's a green heron, yellow legs, and a spotted sandpiper all hanging out together. The green heron was hanging out on top of the exposed part of a large metal culvert. And the yellow legs, I think greater yellow legs, was hunting in the water with the spotted sandpiper in the background on the shore in this shot. Alright, we've just stepped out of the car for a moment. We're going to take a look through a hide. We see some shorebirds, little wisnits as I like to call them. I don't know if we'll be able to identify them, but we'll give it a try. We moved towards the hide, looking out towards a muddy area. We saw lots of small shorebirds at some distance. We believe that these are semi-palmated plovers. There was a larger bird in front which we think is a black-bellied plover. Not much else out there, so we scanned this area closer to the car. Taking a look out at the shorebirds and trying to figure out what we're seeing, but then Sara spotted a Sara. Ooh, that's a lifer for us. Another bird for our challenge. It's a bird I wanted to see for a very long time. Almost missed it actually. It came out, ran, paused, tried to get the camera up. It was gone, but thankfully it came back out. Got some nice footage of that. Soras are secretive birds. They can be found throughout North America, but they're usually very well concealed, so we're pretty lucky to get such great views as this. Suffice to say, it didn't stick around very long. We returned to the car and proceeded further along the drive. Just continuing our drive, but we just got awesome looks at a green heron perched pretty close to the side of the road. Awesome. Being in a car seems to make birds feel less threatened, so these wildlife drives, which are quite common in the US, allow you to get some pretty good shots. Somewhere around here, we had a shorebird fly randomly over us. I think this is a willet. We had a little bit further to go along the wildlife drive, another spotted sandpiper shaking its butt a little closer to us this time. And out on some more mud, We think that these are least sandpipers. Next up, we pulled into a lookout area and got some good views of water birds, but also we were greeted in the parking area by this ground dove. A great blue heron fishing out on the water. I got to watch this for a while, but not really long enough for it to actually catch anything, unfortunately. But it was joined by this nearby great egret. And across the way, we saw another tricoloured heron. Oh no, not another yellow legs. We came to near the end of the driving trail and we saw these blue-winged teal in some shallow water in a roadside depression.
Just stepped out of the car for a minute. We've seen plenty of alligators already, but this one is pretty impressive in size. Get my bigger camera on it.
Okay, so we've completed one of the wildlife drives. That was really good. I'm really enjoying it here at Merritt, but we are going to move on now and try and see if we can find some manatees. Where are we going?
Bears Cove.
Bears Cove. Let's go check it out. Before we go there, I should just say there are a couple of spots that are closed today for a prescribed burn. So unfortunately, we won't be able to see flamingos. Kind of hoping for that because that would have been a countable lifer new bird. In the meantime, let's go find these manatees. Stay tuned. Back in a sec.
Before we continue with the manatees and some more bird sightings, bear with us and thanks for your patience and support for the channel as we go to a quick ad break. Back in a sec. We drove from Black Point Wildlife Drive to Bears Cove. Today, Merritt was closed north of here, hence the raised bridge. So, we went looking for some manatees near this location. We weren't disappointed, there were loads of them playing in the bay. A little difficult to get these marine mammals on camera, they only need to come up for air every 3 or 4 minutes. Because these ones are playing and using more energy, they did come up a little more frequently than that. But not much. Meanwhile, we watched for birds flying overhead, and our sightings included a couple of roseate spoonbills, and a couple of different tern species. This one is a sandwich tern with that yellow on the tip of the beak.
Time for another wildlife drive.
Southeast of us, running along Indian River, was another wildlife drive along Biolab Road. This is still on Merritt Island, but it's not part of the reserve, and is instead part of Cape Canaveral National Seashore, and it requires another $10 entry to this area too.
What's the highlight so far, Sarah?
Probably the Sara.
Yeah, pretty decent looks for a bird that is as shy as it is. Pleased with that one. Manatees were cool too, but it's not a bird, is it? So, although I liked seeing the sandwich tern as well. Watching that dive was pretty cool.
Indian River to the east was quite choppy and quiet, but the marshes on our westward side were more sheltered for this roseate spoonbill. And hanging out in the water, this snowy egret. We also came across this rookery of small herons, with quite a few juveniles in it. Can you guess which heron species? Here's one of the adults. Yep, green heron. Speaking of juveniles, here's a young black-crowned night heron. Further along the trail, none shall pass these turkey vultures. And we saw a few ospreys hunting the plentiful waters in this area. As we birded along this stretch of road, the launch pad of Cape Canaveral could be seen in the distance. This area is nicknamed the Space Coast.
Another wildlife drive complete. Some of the same species we've already seen, but nice views of some different things. Also interesting to be doing that under the shadow of Cape Canaveral, the launch pad in the background too. I think we're going to move on to a walking trail next. Stay tuned, we'll be back after this break. Okay, let's do a bit of a walk. There's two trails here, Oak Hammock and Palm Hammock. Palm Hammock has construction, so that leaves us with Oak Hammock, so I guess that's what we're going to do. Already heard a northern parula at the beginning of the trailhead, but it's high up in the trees. But we know the song. Can't get it on camera, but we've already seen that on this trip, so not too worried about that. But it's a nice song. Let's take a look along this trail. I always said you came from the wrong side of the tracks.
Several orange trees growing along this trail and plenty of birds singing from the canopy, including an incessant red-eyed vireo.
The bird song in the background, if you can hear it under the din of that buzzing cicada, is a red-eyed vireo. They tend to be high up in the trees, so we can't see it, but we hear it. What's the mnemonic for that, Sarah?
Where am I? Here I am. Look up high.
That's supposedly what it sounds like. We're not too concerned about missing that bird. They're common in Ontario, so hopefully we'll get it when we go home as well. Maybe greater opportunities with a lower tree canopy when we get back.
We did manage to get our first Floridian tufted titmouse on camera. They're a more common species as you head further north through the state. And we saw and heard this noisy Carolina wren. Peekaboo catbird. We did eventually track down a northern parula. Not too bad views of a blue-grey gnatcatcher. We saw our first one back at Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary, but slightly better looks here.
Okay, nice little trail that. We didn't add any new birds for the year, but we did see a few nice species. On top of what I showed you, and the red-eyed vireo, which I mentioned, we also heard a northern flicker, but we couldn't get eyes on it. We are heading back to the car now. Oh, the other thing we saw was lots of interesting insects, including these golden silk spiders. I'll save you the gruesome image of it eating a dragonfly and just show you the spider on its own. They're pretty big beasts. We're heading back to the car now, gonna get something to eat, and I think there's a boardwalk behind the visitor centre and we're gonna check that out next, so stay tuned, we'll be back in a sec.
We took a bit of a break outside the visitors centre before trying to do that boardwalk, but unfortunately another closed part of Merritt on the day that we visited.
Okay, turns out that the boardwalk is actually closed. We staked it out a little bit at the trailhead because there's a bird feeder that promises painted buntings, and again, although we've seen the female, we're yet to see the male, which is a kind of target bird. We get to count it with the female, and unfortunately the male did not turn up, so we keep pursuing that one. In the meantime, we're doing another wildlife drive. This will be our last wildlife drive. If anything new crops up or any particularly good shots, I'll be sure to share them with you. Stay tuned, let's take a look.
Our next and final drive was along Westgator Creek Road. Quite early on we saw what I think has become probably my favourite North American heron-type species, the reddish egret. These birds are more active in their hunting than other heron types that would prefer to wait in ambush, Probably my best footage of this bird comes in our video from Fort DeSoto, which also happens to be probably my favourite video overall from Florida so far, so check that video out if you haven't seen it already. In other bird news, this willet was preening in the water. Again, the water was a little choppy on one side, but to the left of us it was more marshy, and...
Well, the boardwalk might be closed, but we think we've got a new lifer out in the marsh behind the camera. I just saw a rail of some kind. Now, expected rails are king and clapper rails. I've taken a photo of it and then I've Bluetoothed it to Sarah. So she's looking at that picture now and comparing it to pictures of other rails because we're not sure which one we've just seen. What do you think?
I think we have a clapper rail.
Clapper rail. Clapper rail, guys. New lifer, new bird for the 300 bird challenge, worth coming on this wildlife drive. Really good day at Merritt so far. 2 new lifers, both of them rail types. Sara earlier and now clapper rail. Ooh, let's see if we can pick up anything else on the rest of this wildlife drive.
Well, actually, that was about it for the day, but at least we end on a high. The bridge back to our hotel was calling. This osprey was roosting on that bridge, and he led us back to the mainland.
Well, that concludes our trip to Merritt Island. What a great day that's been. Can't complain when you see 2 new lifers in a day. Really nice walks here, some really nice wildlife drives too. Some of it not open, but that's okay. We had a good time with the things that we could see. Hope you enjoyed this video as much as we enjoyed our day. Sarah, what should they do with that like button?
They should smash it.
If you hit the like button, it will help other people find this channel. If you would like to leave a comment, we'd appreciate that too. Which has been your favourite place in Florida that we visited so far? I think for us it's probably today, or Fort DeSoto, or maybe Corkscrew. Go check those videos out if you didn't see them yet. In the meantime, if you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. If you hit the bell icon, you'll get notifications whenever we post a new video. Are you a Floridian? Please hit the subscribe button and follow us on our future trips too. Thanks for watching this video. Happy birding. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.